Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is Think in English, Don't Translate.
It sounds like, the simplest instruction in the world, doesn't it? Just think in the language.
Right.
It's the advice every teacher gives. It's probably printed on the first page of every textbook. But, for anyone who's actually been in the trenches learning a second language, you know that flipping that switch is infinitely more complicated than it sounds.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like someone telling you to just relax while you're, falling out of an airplane.
Yeah.
I think we really need to start by properly setting the scene here, because this is a pain point that literally every single language learner has felt deep in their bones. You know the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a conversation, maybe you're just ordering a coffee or trying to chat with a colleague, before a meeting starts, and someone asks you a simple question, and you freeze.
The deer in the headlights moment. The brain lock.
That's it. You know exactly what you want to say. In your native language, the thought is sitting right there, fully formed, articulate, maybe even funny. But then your brain just goes into this frantic panic mode archive search. You're hunting for the matching words in English. You're trying to arrange them. You're double-checking grammar rules you learned in high school. And by the time you actually open your mouth,
the moment has passed.
It's gone.
The rhythm is broken, or, and this is maybe even worse, you stumble through it awkwardly using a word that's technically correct but sounds completely unnatural, and the person just looks at you with that polite confusion.
Right. And it feels terrible. It feels like your brain just crashed. It is such a confidence killer. You walk away thinking, I know the answer. Why couldn't I say it?
That is the universal struggle. It really is. It's the defining frustration of the intermediate learner. But what we found in the deep dive for today is that this isn't just a matter of you needing to, study more vocabulary lists. No. It isn't because you aren't smart enough or don't have an aptitude for languages. It's a structural issue. It's about how your brain is processing the information. If you're translating, you are effectively building a massive barrier to your own fluency.
So let's unpack this, because the material describes this process, the translation process, as the scenic route of the brain, which sounds lovely if you're on a Sunday drive.
If you're looking at the hills, sure.
But not when you're trying to make a joke at a dinner party and you need the timing to be instant.
Indisputably, it is the most inefficient, circuitous way to communicate. When you rely on translation, you aren't just swapping one word for another. You are running a massive 7-step background process in your brain for every single sentence.
7 steps. That seems high. I think most people assume it's just hear word, translate word, speak word, 3 steps.
Maybe 4 if you count breathing.
Right.
I wish it were that streamlined, but let's break down what's actually happening under the hood. So, step 1, you receive the English input, you hear the sounds. Step 2, you have to convert that input into your native language just to understand it. You aren't understanding the English, you're understanding the translation of the English.
Okay, so right off the bat, you're adding a whole extra layer of processing.
A huge one. Then, step 3, you process the actual meaning, the emotional or logical content, but you're doing that processing in your native tongue. You are thinking about the answer in Spanish or Japanese or German.
Okay, so you're already 3 steps deep, you're burning energy, and you haven't even started thinking about your reply yet.
Not at all. You're just at the comprehension stage.
Yeah.
Now comes the output. Step 4, you formulate your response. But again, you draft it in your native language. You build the sentence perfectly in your head in your mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Step 5, you then have to translate that draft back into English.
And this is where the wheels usually fall off, I'm guessing?
Often, yes. Because step 6, and this is the killer, you mentally check the grammar and vocabulary. You're trying to make sure you didn't mess up the structure. You're auditioning the sentence in your mind, scanning for errors.
Oh, wow.
And finally, step 7, you speak.
That is exhausting just to hear you list it out. It's no wonder people hesitate.
It is. Think about it like this. It's like trying to run, high-end video editing software on a computer from 1995.
Yeah.
It just eats up all your RAM. The processor is overheating. The fan is spinning like crazy. That's why learners feel physically drained after speaking English for just 30 minutes. It isn't the language itself that's tiring. It's that massive processing load.
It's the spinning wheel of death for the human brain. You're buffering.
It's like a perfect visual. You're buffering in real-time conversation.
So the mission for this deep dive isn't just learn more words. It's stop the 7-step program. We want to rewire the brain to bypass that native language loop entirely.
That is the crux of it. We want to streamline the architecture. We want to go from input to meaning and then meaning to output. No detour through the native tongue. It's all about direct connection.
But why is that detour so dangerous? I mean, apart from it being slow, we get that it causes lag. Why does it actually lead to bad English? Because the research suggests that translation creates this illusion of understanding. You think you know what you're saying, but you're actually saying something slightly off.
This is where it gets really fascinating. We tend to think of languages as just codes, like a cipher, where A equals B, dog equals Perot or Hund.
Sure, a simple swap.
We think if we just swap the labels, the reality underneath is the same. But languages do not map one-to-one. They carve up reality differently.
I love the example in the research about the word home. It seems so simple. Everyone has a word for where they live.
Yes, but the concept isn't identical. In English, home is a very heavy word. It implies comfort, belonging, home sweet home. It's emotional.
It's where the heart is.
Absolutely. You can say, I'm going home, and it feels warm. But in many other languages, the direct translation might just mean dwelling or house, the physical structure.
Right. So if I translate the word from my native language, which just means the building where I sleep, and I use that to mean home, I'm missing the vibe.
You get the logical location, but you lose the feeling. You're stripping the color out of the language without even realizing it. You're speaking in black and white while everyone else is in technicolor.
Indeed. And it gets even messier with things like phrasal verbs, like take run into. I ran into an old friend.
Oh, this is a nightmare for translators.
If I'm translating that literally word for word, I'm imagining a physical collision. Like I was jogging down the street and bam, I hit my friend and knocked them over.
Spot on. Your brain has to conjure that image first because that is what the words mean literally. Then your brain has to realize it's ridiculous, discard it, and then search for the metaphorical meaning of meeting unexpectedly.
And that takes time.
It takes milliseconds, sure, but those milliseconds add up to that lag we talked about. You're constantly fighting your own mental imagery.
And idioms. Raining cats and dogs.
A classic. A literal translator sees falling pets. A direct thinker just sees a heavy downpour. The mental imagery is completely different. If you're translating, you are essentially hallucinating weird images all day long and then correcting them. It's a chaotic way to think.
It's almost like you're trying to build a building using the wrong blueprints. You have the bricks, but the design is for a completely different climate.
That is a perfect analogy. The research actually touches on this concept of structural damage. When you think in your native language, you are trying to force English into the architectural blueprint of your mother tongue. You're just importing errors.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like in practice? Because I think people do this without even knowing they are doing it.
Sure. A very common one is the concept of age. In English, we use the verb to be. I am 25. The structure defines who you are.
It's a state of being.
Right. But in Spanish or French, the structure is to have. I have 25 years. It's a possession. So if you form the thought in Spanish and translate it, you end up saying, I have 25 years in English.
Which is understandable. If someone said that to me, I'd know what they meant. But it marks them immediately as a non-native speaker.
Instantly. It's structurally wrong. You are forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Or the German sentence structure. Right. Pushing the verb all the way to the end.
Indisputably. In German, you might have a sentence that literally translates to, I have the ball to the man thrown. The action is just hanging off a cliff at the end. If you try to map that onto English, which wants the verb right after the subject, you end up with a mess.
It's like building that Japanese house with Italian plans again. The foundation just doesn't match the walls.
It fundamentally doesn't work.
And beyond the grammar, there's a massive cognitive toll. We briefly mentioned the lag, but think about humor. This is something I hear from listeners all the time. They feel like they lose their personality.
Oh, this is the worst part. Being the boring person in the group because you can't joke fast enough.
Humor is all about timing, right?
Humor relies entirely on timing and wordplay. By the time you translate the joke, understand the pun, translate your witty comeback, and then check the grammar, the conversation has moved on 3 topics.
And you just sit there in silence.
You sit there in silence. You feel less like yourself. You feel stripped of your wit.
That hits home for so many people. It's like you have a cool, smart, charismatic personality in your native language and a childlike, quiet, shy personality in English.
which is incredibly frustrating for intelligent adults. You feel trapped inside your own head. But the good news is this isn't a character flaw. You aren't boring. It's a neurological bottleneck. You are literally just blocked by the traffic of translation.
Let's get into that, the neuroscience, because this deep dive actually looked at what is happening physically inside the brain during this process. This isn't just theory. We can actually see it on screens.
Right. Using fMRI scans, they looked at proficient bilinguals versus learners who translate. And the difference is stark. When a proficient bilingual speaks, the brain looks very similar to a native speaker's brain. The language centers, Broca's area, Wernicke's area, they light up. Simple, efficient.
It's a clean signal.
A very clean signal. Now you look at the translators, the ones doing the 7-step program. Their brains are lighting up like a Christmas tree, but in all the wrong places.
What are they activating?
They're activating regions associated with cognitive control and working memory places like the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Essentially, their brain is panicking. It's problem solving, not speaking. It's working twice as hard to achieve half the result.
It's high effort, low efficiency. It's like sprinting just to stay in the same place.
That's it. And there's also the concept of switching costs. Every time you toggle between your native language and English, there is a measurable drop in accuracy and speed. You're burning glucose just flipping that switch back and forth.
It's like paying a toll every time you want to say a sentence.
It is. And eventually, you run out of change.
So the goal is to create a separate neural pathway, a highway just for English, so we don't have to route all the traffic through the downtown of our native language.
I love that visualization. Yes. And the brain is plastic. That's the most important takeaway here. It rewires itself based on usage. If you stop using the old road, the translation road, and you force the traffic onto the new road gets paved. It becomes faster, becomes the default.
Okay, so we know why we need to do it. It saves energy, it improves accuracy, and it lets us actually be funny again. But before we get to the tactics, the how, we have to talk about the mindset shift. Because the research highlights that most people don't translate because they have to. They translate because they are afraid not to.
That is a profound insight. It starts with the idea of functional versus perfect understanding.
Right, the fear of missing a single word. I think we're all guilty of this. You hear a sentence with 10 words, you know 9 of them, but you panic over the one you don't know.
Learners are often perfectionists. They want the dictionary definition of every single word in a sentence. They treat a conversation like a math problem where every variable must be solved. But here's the truth. Native speakers don't know every word.
Wait, really? We kind of assume native speakers had the entire dictionary downloaded into their brains?
Of course not. If I read a complex technical manual or a medical journal or even a dense novel from the 1800s, there are words I don't know, maybe archaic adjectives or specific jargon, but I don't stop and translate them. I don't panic.
So what do?
I get the gist. I follow the plot. That is functional understanding. You need to be okay with ambiguity. If you understand the idea, you understand the language.
That is surprisingly comforting. So if I'm reading a book in English, I don't need to stop and look up every single adjective.
Please don't. It kills the flow. If you understand the story, keep going. Your brain will fill in the gaps. That is actually how you learn new words from context, by seeing them in the wild, not by looking them up.
Then there's truth number 2. Mistakes are necessary data.
This is the hardest one for people to accept. Mental translation feels like a safety net. It feels safe because you can double-check your sentence before you say it. Taking away that safety net feels incredibly risky.
You feel naked. You're just blurting things out without the quality assurance check.
But you have to. Research shows that learners who take risks and make mistakes learn significantly faster. Every time you make a mistake and get corrected, or even correct yourself, your brain updates its algorithm.
It's like machine learning. The error is the signal to improve.
That's the one. If you never make the mistake because you're translating perfectly in your head, you never internalize the rule, you're just reciting a script. You aren't learning the logic.
So we need to embrace the messiness. We need to be willing to sound a little foolish to get smart.
Without a doubt. And finally, truth number 3, the access bottleneck. This is for the listeners who say, I can't think in English because I don't know enough words.
I hear that all the time. I'm not advanced enough yet. Once I learn more words, then I'll start thinking in English.
But the data suggests otherwise. Most intermediate learners have a passive vocabulary of, say, 2,000 to 5,000 words. That is more than enough to navigate daily life.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You can order food, travel, make friends, and hold a job with 3,000 words. You don't have a knowledge problem. You have an access problem.
The words are in the warehouse, but the delivery truck is stuck in traffic.
That's it. Translation is the traffic jam. Once you clear it, you'll be shocked at how much you already know. You'll realize you have words for almost everything. You just couldn't reach them fast enough because you were filtering them through your native language.
Okay, let's clear the traffic. Let's get to the practical strategies. The deep dive organizes these into levels, which I love. It makes it feel like a game. Level 1 is the daily grind, things you can do alone right now.
And the most effective one, the foundation of everything, is the internal monologue.
Talking to yourself.
Ideally, yes. We all have a running commentary in our heads. I'm hungry, this coffee is cold, I need to call my mom, that guy just cut me off in traffic. Start turning that voice into English.
Just narrating your life.
Start simple. Don't try to debate philosophy yet. Stick to the present tense. I am walking to the door. I am opening the door. I'm looking for my keys. The sky is blue.
And what happens when I hit a wall? I'm looking at, I don't know, a specific type of flower or a kitchen gadget, and I simply do not know the word in English.
This is the critical moment. This is where most people fail. Do not switch to your native language. Do not look it up on your phone. Describe it.
Describe it.
Work around the hole, say, that is a pretty flower with red petals. Or if you forget the word for umbrella, call it the rain protection thing.
The rain protection thing. I like that.
It sounds silly, maybe even childish, but you are training your brain to stay in the English channel. You are solving the problem in English. That is infinitely more valuable than finding the correct word via translation. You're keeping the circuitry active.
It keeps the flow going. You aren't breaking the immersion.
Indeed. It forces you to be resourceful in English, which is a key skill for fluency. The second strategy in level 1 is labeling your world, but doing it the right way.
I've seen people do this. They cover their house in Post-it notes. They stick a note on the table that says table.
That is better than nothing, but honestly, it's weak. It's just word association. You see the word table, and your brain probably just translates it anyway. You see table, you think your native word. We want concept association.
So not just the word.
No, don't just label the object. Label its purpose or your relationship to it.
So instead of fridge, what do I write?
Write a full sentence. This is where I keep food cold. Or on your lamp. This light is good for reading.
Ah, I see. You're engaging with the object in a full sentence structure.
Absolutely. You are connecting the object directly to the English concept in the grammar, bypassing the native label entirely. When you see the lamp, you think about reading, you think about the light. You don't just see the noun lamp. You're building context.
That brings us to level 2. Interaction and immersion. Now we're getting a bit more social, or at least external. The synonym game.
This builds on the description technique. When you hear a new word, or when you're trying to learn a new word like frustrated, don't memorize the translation in your language.
Right. No frustrated equals native word.
Instead, define it with other English words you already know. Frustrated means feeling upset because something isn't working.
This is where those monolingual dictionaries come in handy, right? The English to English ones.
They are essential tools. If you use a bilingual dictionary, you are reinforcing the translation link. You are telling your brain English is just a code for my language. If you use a monolingual dictionary, you are learning English through English. It keeps you in the ecosystem.
I also love the idea of English-only zones. Gamifying your house.
It's about trigger points. You can't think in English 24/7 immediately. It's too tiring, as we established. But you can say, the kitchen is an English zone.
So the moment I cross the threshold into the kitchen, my internal voice just switches.
Yes, it's a physical trigger. You're cooking and you narrate. I am chopping the onions. I am crying because of the onions.
I am burning the toast.
Hopefully not, but yes. Or the gym. Counting reps, encouraging yourself, come on, 2 more, all in English. It creates a habit loop. Your brain starts to associate the gym with English. Eventually, you won't even have to try. You'll walk into the gym and your brain will switch modes automatically.
Now, here's a controversial one for some people. Immersion without subtitles.
It can be painful, but it is so necessary. If you are watching a movie with subtitles in your native language, you are reading, not listening. And you are translating. You are literally engaging the reading part of your brain, not the auditory language part.
But if I turn them off, I won't understand anything. That's the fear.
Yeah.
I'll miss the plot.
You will understand less, yes, at first. But you will learn more. Use context clues. Look at the actors' faces. Listen to the tone of voice. Look at the scenery. That is how children learn their first language.
They don't have subtitles floating in the air.
They don't. They guess based on context.
So maybe start with something easier. Don't start with a complex sci-fi thriller about quantum physics.
Definitely not. Rewatch a movie you already know and love. You know the plot, you know the characters, so you can relax and just focus on the language sounds. Or watch cooking shows or documentaries where the visuals literally show you what the words mean. If they say whisk the eggs, they are whisking the eggs on screen. It bridges the gap between sound and meaning without translation.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, are you ready for level 3? These are the advanced creative strategies. This is where we get into the Jedi mind tricks.
Let's do it.
Think aloud problem solving. This takes the internal monologue to the next level.
This is for when you have a task that requires logic. Fixing a wobbly shelf, planning your week, figuring out why your printer isn't working. Speak the logic out loud.
Okay, the printer's jammed. I need to open the tray. Maybe it's out of paper.
Exactly. Or, I have 3 days to finish this report, so I should start with research. It forces you to use logical connectors. So, because, therefore, if then, it pushes your grammar harder than just describing a coffee cup. You are building arguments in English.
It's engaging the analytical part of your brain in English. You aren't just observing, you're computing. And then, dream journaling. This one blew my mind. Can you really control your dreams?
You can influence them. The idea is to keep a journal by your bed. As soon as you wake up, write down whatever you remember from your dreams, but do it in English.
Why dreams specifically? Why not just write a diary?
Because dreams are abstract, emotional, and weird. They don't follow logical rules. They are very hard to translate because they are pure imagery and feeling. If you force yourself to write about them in English, you are connecting the language directly to your subconscious imagery.
You're pulling the dream out of the ether and giving it English form.
That's the idea, and the research says this actually encourages you to start dreaming in English. It signals to your brain that English is a core processing language, not just a work tool. Many learners report that after a few weeks of this practice, they have their first English dream. And that is a huge milestone.
That is wild. Okay, the last strategy in this section is the translation band challenge. This sounds intense.
It is. It's high-intensity interval training for your brain. You commit to a time period, maybe just 1 hour, or a full day if you're brave, where you actively catch yourself translating.
So you're policing your own thoughts.
Yes. And if you slip and translate, you have to stop, pause, and reformulate the thought from scratch, as in English. It's about building awareness. Most of us translate on autopilot. This turns off the autopilot and forces you to take the wheel.
I imagine that would be frustrating at first, but incredibly effective.
It is. It breaks the habit loop through sheer conscious effort. You might have a quiet hour because you're afraid to think, but that silence is better than the noisy translation loop.
We've covered the how, but I want to talk about the emotional side of this again, because there are obstacles that aren't just about vocabulary. We touched on this earlier, the personality crisis.
This is a very real psychological hurdle. You feel boring. You feel simple. You feel like a toddler.
I've heard people say they feel stupid in English because they can't express their complex, nuanced thoughts. They can't be sarcastic or witty.
And it's temporary. You have to remember you are painting with fewer colors right now. But here is the beautiful part. As you persist, you don't just rediscover your old personality, you often discover a new facet of your personality.
A new English self.
Exactly. Different languages can trigger different cultural associations and attitudes. You might find you are more direct in English, or more polite, or even funnier in a different, drier way. You aren't losing yourself, you are expanding yourself.
That's a great way to frame it. You aren't losing the old you, you're gaining a new avatar.
Speaking of expansion, let's talk about context-based vocabulary. The source used the word serendipity. I love this example. Serendipity is a hard word to translate directly into many languages because it's such a specific concept. A happy accident. Finding something good without looking for it.
So how do we learn it without translating?
You build a scene. Don't memorize a definition. Imagine finding a great restaurant by accident when you were lost in a new city. That feeling, that joy of finding something good when you weren't looking, that is serendipity.
So you attach the word to the feeling and the scenario, not to a word in your native language.
That's the key. You wire the word serendipity to the emotional center of your brain. So when you feel that feeling again, the word serendipity pops up, not the translation.
And finally, there is the cultural thinking pattern. This is for the advanced learners.
Language is culture. English, especially American English, is very direct. It is explicit. Subject, verb, object. I claim X. Here is my evidence.
Whereas other cultures might be more circular or poetic or indirect out of politeness.
Correct. In some cultures, it's rude to state your point immediately. You have to build up to it. But to truly think in English, you have to adopt the English mindset. Be direct. Don't talk around the point, hit the point. When you structure your arguments like an English speaker, the words flow more naturally because they fit the cultural architecture.
You're swimming with the current, not against it.
You got it.
So we've been doing this for a while. We've been narrating our coffee. We've been labeling our lamps. We've been policing our dreams. How do we know it's working? What are the signs of progress?
There are a few aha moments to look out for. The first is delayed realization. You watch a video or listen to a podcast, and 10 minutes later you realize, wait, I didn't translate any of that?
It just went in.
It just went in. You forgot it was in English. You were just consuming content. That is huge. It means the barrier is down.
What about the tip of the tongue phenomenon?
This is my favorite. You know a concept, you know exactly what you want to say, but you can't remember the word in English. And you can't remember it in your native language either.
Wait, that's a good thing. That sounds like I'm losing my mind.
It's a great thing. It means you are thinking in concepts, not words. You have detached the idea from your native language. You are in the conceptual zone. The word will come, but the fact that you aren't defaulting to your native word is a massive victory.
And of course, the dreams.
When you dream in English, you know you have made it deep into the subconscious. That's the graduation ceremony.
So for everyone listening, this isn't a magic trick. It sounds like hard work.
It is. It is a rewiring process. It takes conscious effort to override a lifetime of habit. It's gym for the brain.
But the goal is to bridge that gap to your English self, the version of you that is articulate and funny and fluent.
And that version of you is waiting. You just have to stop taking the scenic route and start building the direct highway.
Start small. Tomorrow morning, when you pour that coffee, tell yourself about it in English.
This coffee is hot. Start there.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought from our source material today. Think about everything you just heard in this deep dive. Try to summarize it in your head and do it entirely in English.
No cheating.
If you found value in this deep dive, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us keep the lab running and bringing you these insights.
We appreciate you listening.
Thanks for joining us in the Learn English Lab. See you next time.